Welcome to What the Flick, everybody. Ben and Alonso here, the final episode of Fargo Season 2, Palindrome. And the traditional, the new way we have these series, the penultimate episode is the...
Shit goes down.
And this one...
the wrap-up.
This really wrapped up and slowed down, but it was still, I thought, a very effective episode.
I wish I still had episode 1 in TiVo, because I'm assuming if they call it Palindrome, that maybe somehow the sequence of events of this episode is a reverse mirror of the first episode, or at least maybe the last scene mirrors the first scene. I don't know. I'm sure someone will tell us.
It's on. I think the whole season's on demand, so you could you could check it out because I know you don't have anything else to watch.
Of course.
I'll just rewatch Fargo.
Nothing.
Really powerful there at the beginning and scary because I guess it's Patrick Wilson's voiceover at the beginning. The last 2 episodes doing the Fargo opening differently.
Right.
Last week, Martin Freeman reading it as if it's a
history book, yeah.
Yeah, but like a history book for kids. And then, with the animated drawings of the dead. And this time, Patrick Wilson reading it, and when he says the line, out of respect for the dead, as he's reading it, we were running through the dead.
All the Gerhardts.
All the dead Gerhardts. And then the last shot is on Betsy. And we know she collapsed, she could be dead.
Right.
And then you're like, oh, I mean, we know she's dying.
Yeah.
And if we've watched season 2, we know she did die.
Right. Season 1, yeah.
Season 1, excuse me. And so, there's a real moment of like, oh, and there she is with Molly and
which I got to say, not killing Betsy on this season, I think, was tremendous restraint on their part.
Yeah.
Because that's a very easy, emotional for audiences if you want to go that way. But we know she dies.
We know she dies.
So we don't have to see it. We don't have to, have that sort of emotional pornography.
Right, and we can hope that she goes into remission and she's got 8 years with her daughter or something, or she may die in 2 weeks. So she's not in great shape. But the show literally ends with, good night, Mr. Solverson, good night, Mrs. Solverson, and all the ships at sea.
Exactly.
A really nice moment, even though we know it's a brief moment.
And I love her dream about the future, where we get to see Molly and her kids, which is
Alison Tolman.
Again, we talk about when this movie is sort of quoting the Coens. That's right out of the end of Raising Arizona.
Oh, right. There's a lot of it. There's a lot, I was just reading that
the word friendo got used this week.
The word friendo got used by Mike, right?
By the kitchen, yeah, the surviving kitchen.
By the surviving kitchen, right, in that scene. I mean, what a great scene from Mike there, too, with the act of cruelty and the act of kindness.
Yeah.
Here's the problem.
I already did my...
Wanda's already free to go, and I gave her a car, and a bunch of cash, and her life. So I think that's my act of kindness, which means you gotta go. That kid played that scene really well. What's his name? I just looked it up.
I don't know, the gold chain guy.
Yeah, the gold chain guy, Ricky. Let me look it up. Say something.
So, Milligan's first line in this episode when he walks into the Gerhardt compound is, "People of Earth."
Oh, yes, right, yeah.
But that's kind of it. I mean, the UFO is referred to in this episode okay, it's a thing that really happened. It's not just that Ed and Peggy hallucinated or something. But that's kind of it. And you asked me last week how I felt about it, and I said I was going to reserve my judgment until I saw how it followed through in this week. I don't know that I like it now. It seems really just random and untouched,
Yeah, right. Like
even for the 70s.
Right. I mean, it gave us a nice line of Ted Danson saying, "You're going to put that in the report?"
Yeah.
And him going, "I don't know." And he's like, maybe leave it out.
Yeah. Keep it in the subtext, I think is what he said.
Keep it in the subtext, yeah. How about you were about to die, but you were saved by a UFO? Right. I mean, it's like it's like all of a sudden this is a world where they're like, oh, yeah, they're UFOs.
Yeah.
I don't know that I loved that either.
I mean, they did certainly set it up for us. It's not like it just came out of nowhere, but it's still... If you're going to take that route, you either have... I kind of feel like you either have to commit to it more or not do it.
Yeah, and so I would say in a show like this that ultimately I probably would have come down if I'd been in that writer's room or, don't do it.
No.
Don't do it, because there's no way out of it in a show that feels...
Otherwise, totally...
Yeah, really sort of grounded and, bizarre and weird, but genuine.
Yeah.
So that was a problem. But that said, I love that. I mean, I just love hearing him talk. We did our Hateful Eight review and why I like, Tarantino so much. And again, it's the way people talk. And I love hearing that dialogue and deeply. And this felt like Elmore Leonard most of the time. If Elmore Leonard had written, instead of writing about losers from Florida and Detroit,
had done Minnesota
if he'd
and
written
North
about
Dakota.
people in Minnesota and North Dakota, these would have been his cops. These would have been his criminals.
Sure. Yeah. No. And there's I know this episode has gotten a bad rap on the net, but I thought for the most part it was pretty effective. I thought it tied things up nicely. I liked Ed's moment of clarity.
Mm-hmm. Totally. What a keen moment of clarity. Yeah.
And then Peggy's whole speech in the car about being an unfulfilled woman and the impossible expectations, and just to have the sheriff say, people are dead, Peggy.
People are dead, Peggy. But she wasn't wrong.
No,
I
absolutely.
mean, she wasn't wrong. When she's like, yeah, sure, great.
As
soon as they're 37 hours in a day, I can do all this.
Everything you're saying is true, but it in no way excuses everything that just went down. You know?
And also I thought that Lou, Patrick Wilson, was going to give Peggy a break. And he still may in some capacity, because it's a little unclear what her heinous crime was.
Well,
I mean, she hit a guy accidentally.
Right.
And I guess they killed him. That's fairly heinous. He was dangerous, bad man.
True, but then they covered it up instead of going to the authorities.
Right.
And then obviously later they kidnapped Dodd, and things get more complicated.
Once again, they kidnapped a guy who was trying to kill them. Like there's no jury that's going to convict him of kidnapping.
Okay,
Dodd.
but again, she could have called the cops after hitting
I got it.
Raj. She could have called.
I'm just saying she's looking at, I think, 4 years.
I suppose.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they could probably make some sort of they could go for an insanity plea, because what was all that with the smoke and the freezer that she thought was happening?
Well, she thought that it was exactly like what's the movie called?
It's not. It's a different movie. It's not the same as the Ronald Reagan one.
Yeah.
I think.
Although this was also a Ronald Reagan, wasn't it?
Oh, was it?
Yeah, he was also in Operation Eagle's Nest.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I missed that. All right.
He was also in that. Right. I think he was the American who saved him with the shot. I don't know. It's fake Ronald Reagan in a fake movie. So
Who can keep up?
Who can keep up? But then I was sure that was happening. But no, it didn't.
Yeah, no, it felt convincing, because it's the kind of thing Hanzee would do.
Also, but smart though, because the kind of thing Hanzee would do, but not if he wanted to get away. And so it turned out, no, he did.
No,
he did get away.
Yes.
That was what he wanted to do.
And I had to look this one up, because this is deep into the Fargo mythos, and I don't know it chapter and verse. The name on the Moses Tripoli.
Oh yeah.
Is the guy in season 1 who hires Mr. Numbers and Mr. Wrench.
Really?
And he also uses the expression "head in a bag."
So Moses Tripoli
is Hanzee after plastic surgery.
And who hires those guys?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
Hanzee,
well played, Fargo.
So Hanzee pulls it off.
Yeah.
He had a
He's
full life.
Exactly.
And running his own thing.
Yes. Yeah. Everything he wanted. Meanwhile, then poor Mike Milligan, that scene with Adam Arkin, who directed this episode very well.
So we've seen Adam Arkin before briefly in one of our reviews. I couldn't remember who the executive you see yelling onto the phone at Milligan after discovering the dead bodies in the office in Kansas City.
Right. So that last scene where he's sort of kind of laying out what this guy's future is going to be, my immediate thought was, and Alexander wept, for there were no new worlds to conquer. This guy's so good in the field and so ruthless and good at what he does, and now he's stuck in his shitty office filling out quarterly expense projections and playing golf. It's like, congratulations.
Bragging about the other guy. Oh, he discovered that saved $1.2 million in the mailroom. And now we put him in charge of California. Oh, why didn't I think of that? Because it starts with Arkin seeming like such a badass with don't apologize, and the other one, I told him gave him 2 pieces.
Yeah, don't turn this into a compliment. Don't turn it into something else.
Just say thanks to the compliment and don't apologize. And you think, oh, Adam.
You think he's a badass, but no, he's actually just one of those corporate assholes who read Sun Tzu.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and he has this small office in Kansas City with a
Selectric.
Quarterly reports due on the 13th. Expecting big things from you. Yeah, and after one last little plea, one mobster's plea from Milligan, I'm a good earner. Don't care.
That's not what it's about. It's ones and zeros.
Right.
What are we to make of the language of symbols?
Yeah, I don't know. That was confusing too. And it was really the last big speech of the long soliloquy of Ted Danson's explanation,
which I know is sort of supposed to tie into the UFO thing, but
I guess it didn't. That stuff didn't really resonate with me. I mean, a guy who'd seen horrible things in war and obviously saw horrible things here as a cop, sort of
Trying to fix humanity.
trying to fix humanity. It was nice. I mean, I loved his daughter's way of dealing with it, and I loved his line about, here we are all together. This is
And that's what matters.
This is what matters.
Yeah, when the angels come, they have the face of your children. I thought that was a really great
he was
line.
Ted Danson. I mean, starting with when you I mean, first of all, it's not an accident that Cheers was one of the 5 best series ever.
Sure.
And it was really driven by him. But I don't think you saw Damages.
I did not.
I mean, I got it. There's too much good stuff you may never. But if it's okay to, like, if you're going on vacation, you want a show. He's in the first season. He shows up again. He's so good.
No, he's consistently
so
great, and he's been on so many different kinds of shows. Like, wasn't he on that Jason Schwartzman HBO show?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And Becker, and I mean, all the like he just always brings it.
Some
and-
CSI. These
Yeah,
days.
right.
It's a regular show where he's he earns, man.
Yeah,
That guy's rich.
No, and people want to work with him. Obviously, a nice little detail. I love that the book that Lou is reading to young Molly is The Great Brain. I was a huge fan of those books when I was a kid. Those are great. As I was going through my notes here to make sure we covered everything, I thought a really solid episode, a very solid season.
Yeah, it's a great season. The UFO.
I could live without the UFO.
Could live without the UFOs. I could live without the symbols. But I got it. The fact is, I still think incredibly positively about the show. There's some. By the way, it got some people were critical of the last couple episodes, but there's plenty of great praise for it. Also,
good.
That I found, like little things that just get me like Keith Carradine looks now, right? The modern Keith Carradine in Betsy's Dream, he looks like Ted Danson. Like, I mean, it totally.
But he's supposed to be Patrick Wilson.
Not even a son. It just occurred
He's
to me.
supposed to be Patrick Wilson.
You're right. He's Patrick Wilson. Never mind. It doesn't matter. But he does. I was just so glad to see Carradine
and Alison Tolman. Yeah, exactly. Oh, and and I don't know that we've really given her enough of a shout out on this, but Kirsten Dunst.
Oh, she's
was
great.
So great in this.
So great.
And playing a character, I think I love when performers who are thought of in a certain way or who've reached a certain level, and you think, okay, they're not going to do like character parts. They're not going to play unsympathetic characters. They're not going to play characters who maybe don't always look their best.
Right.
And I love that Dunst, having been, she was a child star. She was this kind of like, young ingenue, is so happy to like sink into this unsympathetic, like complicated, often annoying character and really find the heart of it and not just sort of play her as a caricature, which I think could have been really easy to do, not just play her as like selfish bitch. Like, I think as somebody who's really desperately trying to find answers and make a life for herself in this period, that was complicated for a lot of women because the roles of women were changing in society and the options were opening up. But with those options came the kind of complications that she talks about, in the speech that she has in the back of the squad.
I know that they don't always mean anything, but she did get a Golden Globe nomination.
Oh, good.
And ought to have, because, I mean, she is incredibly funny when necessary, incredibly dramatic.
Yeah.
And you ache for her at times, and you're furious at her at times. She's a complicated character, and she crushed it. And, I just saw a movie that I guess I loved now in reassessing, because I've twice my wife has been watching Bridge of Spies when I come home on a screener. And each time when I have many other things to watch or do, I'm like, oh, well, I'll settle in. And Mark Rylance is so great in that, man. That guy is. So I really like that movie with 9 endings. But the
wait, what does that have to do with Fargo?
Jesse Plemons must have gained 50 pounds.
Yeah.
Because he's the Francis Gary Powers.
Oh, right.
buddy.
Yes.
So he looked all trim.
That's
and I'm
right.
like, oh, this has got to be shot around the same time.
Yeah.
And so, but because Kirsten Dunst deserves praise, but so does Jesse Plemons.
Absolutely,
Not as complicated a role, but
no,
he was terrific.
we were calling him Meth Damon because of Breaking Bad. On this show, I think he was Fat Damon.
he was
and I can say that because I'm a fat guy.
Yeah.
Gene Smart, as always, that, and the Burn Notice guy, Jeffrey Dodd.
Oh, yeah, right. Jeffrey, not Donovan.
Jeffrey Donovan?
Maybe it is Donovan, yeah.
You know who he
But
named.
Bear was great, too.
Yeah.
And Hanzee was...
Yes.
That guy.
Hanzee, and Bokeem Woodbine. Let's see more Bokeem Woodbine and stuff, because damn.
That guy.
Just, I mean... that's a character that you could do so, and not even wrong, but just not compelling, not as wouldn't pop the way that he did those absurdist lines of his.
Totally, he was fantastic. I
Yeah.
mean, he and Kirsten Dunst may have been the. It's hard to say. There were so many great.
Yeah, I don't know. The woman who played Dodd's daughter was great. I don't know her name.
Oh, she was. Betsy.
Betsy was
Betsy
great.
was aching.
And what's his face? The guy from Everybody Loves Raymond who played the Kansas City guy.
Brad Garrett.
Brad Garrett. I mean, yeah, this
Joe Bulo.
so much to love on this show.
Yeah, I mean, these guys, they know how to. They cast it. They cast it well. I mean, they cast season 1 well. They cast this season well, and season 3 is apparently going to be set closer to the time of season 1.
Okay.
So I think there's a very good chance that we get a
Hanks
little
and
more Hanks
Tolman.
and Allison
Sweet.
Tolman and Carrie.
So sorry we missed episodes this year. It wasn't for not loving the show. It's just schedule stuff.
We'll get
we promise. But yes, thanks for sticking with us, and see you next time.